Muhammad Ali pushed through the heavy glass doors of Marciano's fine dining on a cold February evening in 1976, and the warm air inside hit his face like a slap of reality. He wasn't dressed for this place. He knew it. He'd chosen not to be. Gray Champion sweatshirt, faded blue jeans, white Converse sneakers that had seen better days. No jewelry except his wedding ring. No entourage. No cameras. Just the heavyweight champion of the world walking into one of Chicago's most exclusive restaurants looking like he'd just finished a morning jog. And nobody recognized him. The host's stand was empty, so Ali moved deeper into the restaurant. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across white tablecloths. Silverware clinked against china. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers. The smell of garlic butter and expensive wine hung in the air. This was the kind of place where a single meal cost more than most families spent on groceries in a week. Ali had purchased Marciano's 6 months earlier through a shell company. The investment had been his financial advisor's idea: diversify beyond boxing, build generational wealth, own something beautiful. But Ali had a different reason for buying this particular restaurant. He'd heard stories. Whispered complaints from black customers who'd been turned away at the door. Reservations mysteriously unavailable when certain names were mentioned. Tables by the kitchen for certain faces. Tonight, he'd come to see for himself. A man emerged from the kitchen corridor, mid-40s, thin build, slicked back dark hair, wearing an expensive black suit that fit him like armor. Michael Davidson, general manager for 3 years. His father had held the same position before him. 2 generations of Davidsons running Marciano's like their personal kingdom. Davidson's eyes swept over Ali with the practiced assessment of a man who'd spent his career judging people by their appearance. What he saw didn't please him. A tall black man in casual clothes, clearly lost, clearly out of place in this establishment. "Can I help you?" Davidson's voice carried that specific tone, polite on the surface, condescending underneath. The tone that said helping was the last thing he intended to do. Ali smiled. That famous Ali smile, warm and disarming. "I'd like a table for one, please." Davidson didn't move, didn't reach for the reservation book, didn't call over one of the servers hovering nearby. Just stood there, creating a human wall between Ali and the dining room beyond. "Do you have a reservation?" "No, but I was hoping." "I'm sorry." Davidson cut him off smoothly. "We're fully booked tonight. Perhaps you could try Tony's down the street. It's more casual." The word casual hung in the air like a slap. Ali glanced past Davidson into the dining room. He counted 4 empty tables. 1 near the window, 2 in the corner, 1 right in the center under the main chandelier. "Looks like you've got some tables available," Ali said calmly. Davidson's jaw tightened. "Those are reserved." "For who?" "For our regular clientele." Davidson straightened his tie. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're blocking the entrance." Behind Ali, the door opened. An elderly white couple entered, the man in a tuxedo, the woman dripping in pearls. Davidson's face transformed instantly. Smile lines appeared. His voice warmed by 40 degrees. "Mr. and Mrs. Castellano, welcome back. Your usual table is ready." He gestured to one of the reserved tables Ali had just seen, the one by the window. The Castellanos walked past Ali like he was invisible. Mrs. Castellano's perfume left a trail of roses and judgment. Ali turned back to Davidson. "Interesting how that table just became available." Davidson's smile vanished. "Sir, I'm not going to ask again." "What's your name?" Ali interrupted. "Excuse me." "Your name. I'd like to know it." Davidson hesitated, then straightened. Pride overriding caution. "Michael Davidson, general manager. And I'm telling you for the last time. Michael Davidson." Ali repeated the name slowly, like he was memorizing it. "How long have you worked here, Michael?" 3 years. "Why does that?" "And before you?" "My father managed Marciano's for 15 years. This restaurant has been in my family's care for almost 2 decades, and we have certain standards." "Standards?" Ali nodded thoughtfully. "Tell me about these standards." Davidson's face flushed. This wasn't going how these conversations usually went. People he turned away typically left quickly, embarrassed, not wanting to cause a scene. This man in the sweatshirt and jeans wasn't following the script. The question hung in the air like smoke. Michael Davidson stood frozen, his hand still gripping the host's stand, his face a mixture of shame and confusion and defensive anger, all fighting for control. "I don't." I'm not. He couldn't form a complete sentence. Let me tell you a story, Ali said gently. When I was 12 years old in Louisville, Kentucky, I wanted to buy a bicycle. Saved up my money from odd jobs. Walked into a bike shop downtown, excited as any kid could be. Had the exact amount in my pocket. Ali paused, and in that pause, the entire restaurant leaned forward. The owner took one look at me and said, "We don't sell to coloreds." Just like that. Dream crushed. Not because I didn't have the money. Not because I'd done anything wrong. Just because of how I looked. Davidson's eyes were locked on Ali's face. You know what I did, Michael? I went home and asked my mama the same question I'm asking you. Mama, who taught that man to hate me. I didn't do nothing to him. You know what she told me? Davidson shook his head slowly. She said, "Baby, he didn't learn that on his own. Somebody taught him. His daddy probably. And his daddy before that. Hate gets passed down, like a family recipe. But here's the thing. Just because you inherit it, it doesn't mean you have to keep cooking it." A woman at a nearby table, Mrs. Castellano, who'd walked past Ali like he was invisible, had tears streaming down her face. Ali continued, his voice growing stronger. "So I'm asking you, Michael Davidson, who taught you? Was it your father? The one who ran this place for 15 years before you? Did he teach you which faces belong and which faces don't? Did he teach you to look at skin color before you look at character?" Davidson's voice cracked. He said we had to maintain standards. That certain types of people would drive away our regular customers. That we'd built this restaurant for a specific community, and we needed to protect that. And you believed him. He was my father. The words came out like a confession. Everything I know about this business, I learned from him. The wine selections, the table arrangements, how to greet guests, how to judge who deserves respect and who doesn't. Davidson's shoulders sagged. Yes. Ali walked to the nearest table, the Castellanos. "Ma'am, you're crying. Why?" Mrs. Castellano looked up at Ali, mascara running down her cheeks. Because I've walked past people my whole life. People who didn't fit. People who made me uncomfortable. And I never asked why. I just accepted it." Her husband squeezed her hand but said nothing. Ali addressed the entire restaurant. "How many of you have done the same thing? Crossed the street when you saw someone who looked different? Clutched your purse a little tighter? Made assumptions based on appearances?" Slowly, reluctantly, hands went up. 1, 2, 5, 10. Nearly every table. "That's honest," Ali said. "I appreciate that honesty. Because here's the truth, we've all got prejudices. Every single one of us. The question is, what do we do when we're confronted with them?" He turned back to Davidson. "You've got a choice right now, Michael. You can make excuses. Blame your father. Blame society. Blame the pressure to maintain standards. Or you can do something harder. What's that? You can change." Michael Davidson stood there, the weight of 3 years, no, a lifetime, of learned behavior crushing down on him. His hands were shaking. His breath came in short, sharp gasps. "I don't know how," he whispered. "This is all I've ever known." Ali stepped closer, put his hand on Davidson's shoulder. The gesture was so unexpected, so intimate, that several diners gasped. "You start by telling the truth," Ali said quietly. "Out loud. To everyone here. Tell them what you really thought when you saw me walk in." Davidson's eyes went wide. "I can't." "You can. And you will. Because that's the only way forward." A long silence. Then, slowly, Michael Davidson turned to face the dining room. His voice was barely audible at first. "When I saw Mr. Ali walk through that door, I saw a black man in cheap clothes. And my first thought was that he was in the wrong place. That he'd wandered in by mistake, or maybe was looking for a job in the kitchen. I never even considered that he might be a legitimate customer. And when he asked for a table..." Davidson's voice broke. He cleared his throat, tried again. "When he asked for a table, I wanted him gone. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but because I was afraid. Afraid that if I seated him, our regular customers would complain. Afraid that word would spread that Marciano's was becoming that kind of place. Afraid of what my father would say if he found out I'd let standards slip." Tears were streaming down Davidson's face now. "And the most shameful part, this isn't the first time. It's not the 10th time. It's the 100th time. Maybe more. I've turned away people for years based on nothing but their skin color and my own fear. And I told myself I was protecting this restaurant. Maintaining excellence. But really, I was just perpetuating hate that my father taught me, that his father probably taught him. The confession hung in the air. Then Ali did something that nobody expected. He hugged Michael Davidson, the racist manager who'd just refused him service. The man who'd admitted to years of discrimination. Muhammad Ali, heavyweight champion of the world, wrapped his arms around him and held him while he sobbed. That, Ali said loudly enough for everyone to hear, is the bravest thing I've seen all week. Because confessing your hate is harder than hiding it. Admitting you're wrong is harder than defending yourself. And choosing to change is harder than staying comfortable. Ali released Davidson, turned to address the restaurant one more time. I didn't come here tonight to destroy this man. I came here to test my own investment, to see if the stories I'd heard were true. And they were. But here's what I learned that I didn't expect. Hate isn't usually loud and violent. Most of the time, it's quiet, polite, wrapped up in words like standards and atmosphere and not the right fit. He paused, letting that sink in. Michael Davidson isn't a monster. He's just a man who inherited poison and never questioned whether he should keep drinking it. But tonight he made a choice. He chose truth over comfort, confession over denial. And that's where change begins. Ali pulled out a chair at the nearest empty table, the one reserved for regular clientele. Michael, I'd like you to serve me dinner. Personally, your choice of dish, your choice of wine. Show me what makes Marciano special. Davidson stared at him in disbelief. You want me to serve you? After what I did? Especially after what you did. Because I don't just want to own this restaurant on paper. I want to change it. And change doesn't happen by firing everyone who's ever made a mistake. It happens by giving people the chance to be better. Michael Davidson moved mechanically toward the kitchen, his mind reeling. The entire staff, cooks, servers, busboys, had heard everything through the service window. They stared at him with a mixture of shock, judgment, and something that might have been pity. The head chef, Marcus Williams, a black man who'd worked at Marciano's for 7 years, stood with his arms crossed. So, Marcus said quietly, all this time. Davidson couldn't meet his eyes. Marcus, How many of my friends did you turn away, Mike? How many times did I recommend this place to my family, not knowing you'd refuse to seat them? The question hit like a physical blow. I don't know, Davidson whispered. Too many. Marcus stepped forward. For a moment, Davidson thought he might hit him. Instead, Marcus did something worse. He started to cry. My daughter's graduation dinner, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. Last year. She wanted to eat where her daddy worked. She called to make a reservation. Marie Davidson, she said, using my wife's name. And you know what she was told? Davidson's stomach dropped. He remembered that call. Remembered hearing Davidson and assuming they were related somehow. Remembered saying the restaurant was fully booked that night. Oh God, Davidson breathed. Marcus, your daughter, was told there were no tables available. On a Tuesday night, when we had 17 empty tables. Marcus wiped his eyes roughly. She thought it was her fault. Thought maybe she'd said something wrong on the phone. And I never told her the truth because I didn't want to believe it myself. The kitchen staff stood in absolute silence. Davidson felt his knees buckling. How many moments like this? How many small cruelties disguised as policy? How many lives affected by his casual bigotry? Ali appeared in the kitchen doorway. He must have heard the conversation. Marcus, Ali said gently, what if Michael served that graduation dinner tonight? Right now. You, your wife, your daughter. Best table in the house. Everything on me. Marcus turned to look at Ali, then back at Davidson. Why would you do that? Because that's how you rebuild what's broken, Ali said. One meal at a time. One apology at a time. One chance at a time. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. My daughter's at Northwestern. 20 minutes away. Marie's home. I could call them. Do it, Ali said. 30 minutes later, the dining room of Marciano's had transformed. Marcus's daughter Jasmine sat at the center table, the best table, under the main chandelier, with her mother and father. She was 19, beautiful, wearing a Northwestern sweatshirt, completely confused about why her dad had called her away from studying for a sudden emergency dinner. Michael Davidson stood beside their table, notepad in hand, trembling. Good evening, he managed. My name is Michael Davidson, and I need to apologize to you. Jasmine looked at her father, confused. Marcus nodded encouragingly. Last year, Davidson continued, his voice shaking, when you called to make a reservation for your graduation dinner, I told you we were fully booked. That was a lie. We had plenty of tables available. I refused your reservation because of your name. Because I made assumptions about who you were based on how you sounded on the phone. Jasmine's eyes went wide. Her mother Marie gasped. I robbed you of celebrating your achievement in the place where your father works. I made you feel like you'd done something wrong when the only wrong was mine. And I'm so sorry. Davidson's voice broke completely. I can't give you back that night. But if you'll allow me, I'd like to serve you the best meal I know how to make. To honor your graduation the way it should have been honored. To show you that this restaurant, your father's restaurant, should have always been a place that welcomed you. Jasmine looked at her father. Tears were streaming down Marcus's face. Dad, she whispered. It's true, baby girl, Marcus said quietly. All of it. Jasmine turned back to Davidson. For a long moment, she just stared at him. Then, slowly, she nodded. Okay. One word. But it carried the weight of forgiveness that Davidson didn't deserve and hadn't earned. Yet, what happened over the next hour was something nobody in that restaurant would ever forget. Michael Davidson didn't just serve the Williams family. He transformed into the man he should have been all along. He explained every dish with genuine passion, recommended wines with careful thought, told stories about the restaurant's history, including, now, the truth about its failures. The other diners watched in silent witness. Some cried. Some left, unable to reconcile what they'd learned about a place they'd considered theirs. But most stayed, changed by what they were seeing. Ali sat at his original table, eating the meal Davidson had prepared for him. Osso buco, perfectly tender, with a Barolo that sang on the tongue. But he was watching the room, watching the transformation happening in real time. A white couple in their 60s approached the Williams table. Excuse me, the man said hesitantly. We just wanted to say. We've been coming here for 5 years. We never questioned why we never saw. Why the clientele was so. He couldn't finish. Homogeneous, his wife supplied quietly. We benefited from discrimination and called it atmosphere. I'm sorry. We're both so sorry. Marie Williams reached up and took the woman's hand. Thank you for saying that. More apologies came. More confessions. More tears. The restaurant had become a confessional, a courtroom, a church. All at once. By 10 p.m., the dinner service had ended. The last customers had left. The Williams family had gone home with a lifetime of memories, both the painful truth and the beginning of healing. Ali asked the entire staff to gather in the dining room. Servers, cooks, dishwashers, busboys. Everyone. 23 people stood in a semicircle, facing Ali and Michael Davidson. Show of hands, Ali said. How many of you knew what was happening here? The discrimination. The turned-away reservations. The unspoken policy. Slowly, hands went up. 1, 3, 7, 12. More than half the staff. And how many of you said something? Tried to stop it? Every hand went down. Silence. I'm not judging, Ali said gently. I need you to understand that. Fear is real. Job security is real. The pressure to go along to get along is real. But so is complicity. He walked along the line of staff members, making eye contact with each one. What happened here tonight wasn't just Michael's failure. It was a systemic failure. A culture of exclusion that everyone participated in, whether actively or through silence. And if we're going to change Marciano's, everyone has to be part of that change. A young server, couldn't have been more than 22, raised her hand tentatively. Yes. Ali nodded to her. Mister. Ali, I wanted to say something. So many times. But I was scared. Scared of being fired. Scared of being labeled a troublemaker. Scared that nobody would believe me or care. Her voice was shaking. Does that make me as bad as? No, Ali interrupted firmly. It makes you human. Fear is understandable. But now you know something important. Silence has a cost. And that cost gets paid by people who just want to eat dinner at a nice restaurant. People like the Williams family. He turned to address everyone. Here's what's going to happen. Starting tomorrow, Marciano's has new policies. Written policies. Anti-discrimination training for every staff member. Mystery shoppers to test our practices. A diverse hiring committee. And an open-door policy where anyone, customer or staff, can report concerns without fear of retaliation. Ali paused, then added, And if anyone here isn't comfortable with those changes, I understand. You can leave with 2 weeks severance and a neutral reference. No hard feelings. But if you stay, you're committing to being part of the solution. Nobody moved. I need a verbal commitment, Ali pressed. If you're staying, say I'm in. I'm in, Marcus said immediately. I'm in, the young server echoed. One by one, every staff member committed, including Michael Davidson, whose voice was barely a whisper, but whose commitment was absolute. Good, Ali said, because this restaurant is about to become something bigger than just a place to eat. It's going to become a model. Proof that change is possible. That hate can be unlearned. That broken things can be rebuilt. He looked directly at Davidson. Michael, you're not fired. But you're not general manager anymore either. You're going to train for a new position, Director of Equity and Inclusion. You're going to study, learn, visit other establishments that got this right, and you're going to help build systems that prevent what you did from ever happening again. Davidson's eyes widened. You're giving me another chance? I'm giving you a responsibility, Ali corrected. A chance to turn your shame into action, your failure into expertise. But Michael, understand this. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for every person who walks through that door tomorrow and every day after. They deserve better, and you're going to help make sure they get it. Yes, sir, Davidson said. I won't let you down. Don't make promises, Ali said. Just do the work. February 1979. Marciano's fine dining had been transformed. The staff was diverse, black, white, Asian, Latino. The clientele matched. The policies were clear, enforced, and regularly audited. And Michael Davidson had become one of the most sought-after consultants in the restaurant industry, helping other establishments identify and eliminate discriminatory practices. But tonight was special. Tonight, Marciano's was hosting its third annual Open Door Dinner, an event where 50 meals were provided free to families who'd been turned away in the past. Reservation priority went to those who'd been hurt by the old policies. Marcus Williams stood at the host's stand. He was head of operations now, greeting guests with genuine warmth. His daughter Jasmine, home from law school, was serving tables alongside her dad. And in the corner booth, Muhammad Ali sat with Michael Davidson, reviewing the quarter's diversity metrics. We're at 67% diverse staff, Davidson reported, up from 23% 3 years ago. Customer complaints about discrimination are at 0 for 18 consecutive months. And we've trained staff from 43 other restaurants in the Chicago area. Ali nodded, satisfied. And the bottom line? Revenue is up 34%. Turns out when you welcome everyone, more people come. Imagine that, Ali said with a slight smile. A commotion at the entrance drew their attention. An elderly black couple was being shown to their table, the center one, under the chandelier. The woman was crying. Marcus approached Ali's table. Mr. Ali, that couple. They were turned away in 1974. The husband proposed to his wife here in 1965, back when they still sometimes seated black customers. He wanted to celebrate their anniversary here in 74, but Marcus's voice trailed off. Davidson refused them, Ali finished. Yes, sir. They're here tonight through the Open Door program. Ali stood, walked over to the couple's table. Davidson followed. Good evening, Ali said gently. I'm Muhammad Ali. I own this restaurant. I heard this is a special place for you both. The husband, wiping tears, nodded. We got engaged here 14 years ago. Wanted to celebrate our anniversary here, but he looked at Davidson with recognition, and something complicated crossed his face. Davidson stepped forward. Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, I was the one who turned you away that night. I told you we were fully booked. We weren't. I lied because of the color of your skin. And I've thought about that night every day for the past 5 years. He took a breath. I can't give you back your anniversary dinner. Can't undo the hurt. But I can tell you that what I did was wrong. That I'm sorry. And that this restaurant will never again be a place where love and celebration are denied because of racism. Mrs. Patterson reached up and took Davidson's hand. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for changing. Thank you for coming back, Davidson said. Ali watched the exchange, then leaned down to the couple. Tonight's meal is on the house. And every anniversary from now on. This is your place. It should have always been your place. He paused, then added, Also, I'd like to give you something. Ali pulled out a small box. Inside was a reservation card embossed with gold lettering, Patterson Family Table. Reserved in perpetuity. Marciano's Fine Dining. This table, Ali gestured to where they sat, is yours. Whenever you want it. Call ahead or walk in. It's always available for you. Because this restaurant failed you once. We won't fail you again. Both Pattersons were sobbing now, as were half the people in the dining room. Later that night, after the last guest had left, after the staff had gone home, Ali and Davidson sat alone in the empty restaurant. You know what I think about? Davidson said quietly. That night, when you walked in, I had 6 minutes to choose between the man I was and the man I could become. 6 minutes that felt like 6 seconds. Everything happened so fast. But you chose right, Ali said. Eventually. But I almost didn't. I was so close to doubling down, making excuses, defending myself. But you didn't. Davidson looked around the restaurant, at the diverse staff photos on the wall, at the equity policy framed by the host's stand, at the guest book filled with thank you notes from customers who finally felt welcome. You could have destroyed me that night, Davidson said. Could have called the media. Made me a national example. Ruined my life. What good would that have done? Ali asked. Justice. Accountability. Maybe. But I learned something a long time ago. Destroying someone might feel like justice, but it doesn't actually change anything. The hate just goes underground. Festers. Spreads to someone else. Ali stood, preparing to leave. But giving someone the chance to change? That's how you kill hate. You don't destroy the person. You destroy the ignorance. You rebuild what was broken. And sometimes, the people who were part of the problem become the most effective part of the solution. He put his hand on Davidson's shoulder. You're proof of that. Muhammad Ali walked out of Marciano's that night and drove home through Chicago's quiet streets. He thought about all the times he'd faced discrimination, the restaurants that refused him, the hotels that turned him away, the reporters who questioned his patriotism, the government that tried to destroy him. He'd fought back in different ways, sometimes with words, sometimes with legal action, sometimes in the boxing ring where his fists did the talking. But that night at Marciano's, he'd fought with something more powerful than any of that. He'd fought with grace, by choosing to transform rather than destroy, to educate rather than humiliate, to build rather than burn down. The story of what happened that night spread throughout Chicago, then nationally. Michael Davidson was interviewed on 60 Minutes. His transformation became a case study in business schools. The Marciano model was adopted by restaurants, hotels, and businesses across America. But more importantly, it changed individual hearts. A young server who'd stayed silent learned to speak up. A couple who'd benefited from discrimination learned to question their privilege. A daughter learned that her father's workplace could honor rather than reject her. And a manager who'd inherited hate learned that legacy is a choice, not a destiny. Years later, when Ali was asked about that night, he said something simple. 6 minutes. That's all it took. 6 minutes to choose between staying in the darkness or walking toward the light. Michael chose the light, and now he's helping other people find it too. The reporter asked, but what if he'd refused to change? What if he'd stayed racist? Ali smiled. Then I would have fired him and hired someone better. But he didn't refuse. That's the point. When you give people a real choice, not an ultimatum, but a genuine opportunity to grow, most people surprise you. Not all, but most. Do you think racism can be defeated that way? One conversation at a time? I think racism gets defeat